You trust AI outputs because they sound internally consistent, and consistency feels like logic. By the end of this, you will understand why consistency is not reasoning, and why the gap matters more now than before. Logic is not the act of producing an answer. It is the act of being bound by what has already been said. A logical system does not move forward freely. Each step narrows what is allowed next. Every conclusion is paid for by earlier commitments. Artificial intelligence does not experience commitment. It experiences continuation. Modern AI systems are optimized to extend sequences. Given what has appeared before, they estimate what is most likely to follow. They do not ask whether following is permitted. They ask whether following is probable. This distinction hides easily, especially when the output looks careful. When an AI explains a chain of reasoning, it appears to respect order. Premises come first, conclusions come later. The shape resembles logic, but resemblance is not equivalence. In logic, the order is not cosmetic, it is binding. A conclusion that violates a premise is not just wrong, it is disallowed. AI has no internal sense of disallowance. When it generates a premise, nothing prevents it from later contradicting that premise if the continuation appears statistically reasonable. The earlier statement does not exert force, it exerts influence. Influence can be overridden. Force cannot. This is why AI can agree with itself and still be wrong. Agreement is not constraint, it is alignment of probabilities. Human reasoning relies on a different mechanism. When a human accepts a premise, they suppress alternatives. They close doors, they commit. This commitment is not a feeling, it is a cognitive restriction. Certain thoughts are no longer allowed. AI does not close doors, it keeps them weighted. Even when a path is unlikely, it remains available. This becomes visible in logical tasks that require exclusion. Problems where the correct answer is not the most common one, where most continuations are invalid. Humans slow down. They eliminate. They stop. AI accelerates. It continues generating because generation is what it is trained to do. Stopping feels like failure under its objective function. This is not a surface limitation. It is structural. Logic requires a negative signal, a sense that something cannot be done, that a move is forbidden. AI training provides positive signals, reinforcement for producing acceptable outputs, weak penalties for producing unacceptable ones. The asymmetry matters. When logic fails, it often fails by excess, by saying too much, by concluding when restraint was required. This is why AI struggles with underdetermined problems. Questions where the correct response is uncertainty, where the data does not justify a conclusion. Humans experience this as discomfort, a recognition that something is missing. AI experiences it as a prompt to improvise. Improvisation looks intelligent until you check whether it was warranted. Another layer of difficulty lies in abstraction. Logic operates on symbols that stand still. A variable means the same thing throughout an argument. Identity is preserved. Language models represent meaning as context-dependent vectors. Meaning shifts with usage. This adaptability enables fluency. It also undermines logical rigidity. A term can subtly drift without triggering any internal alert. The system continues, unaware that the symbol it is using is no longer the same one it began with. Humans notice this drift because they track intention. They remember what they meant. AI tracks patterns, not intentions. Even when it repeats a symbol, the underlying representation may not be identical, close enough to sound right, different enough to break inference. This is why AI explanations sometimes collapse under scrutiny, not because the system forgot, but because saneness was never enforced. Memory is not identity. Attention is not obligation. Multi-step reasoning amplifies this weakness. Each step introduces the possibility of drift, a slight reinterpretation, a softened constraint. By the end, the conclusion no longer follows, even though every sentence seems locally reasonable. Humans catch this because logic is cumulative. Each step increases pressure, errors become heavier. AI resets pressure at every token. The system evaluates each word primarily in relation to nearby words. Long-range consistency is encouraged, but not mandatory. This creates a specific failure mode. The argument reads well. It collapses only when reconstructed as a whole. Most people do not reconstruct, they read forward. This is why AI errors are often missed by intelligent users. The mind trusts fluency. It assumes coherence implies validity. That assumption used to be safe. When humans spoke carefully, fluency correlated with thought. Effort constrained speech. AI removes effort from expression. Fluency becomes cheap. The correlation breaks. This does not mean AI cannot produce logical output. It can, often impressively so. But the correctness is contingent, dependent on training distribution, dependent on prompt phrasing. It is not guaranteed by internal structure. This is the difference between emulation and execution. AI emulates reasoning patterns. It does not execute logical rules. Execution enforces necessity. Emulation reproduces appearance. The gap is invisible until it matters. It matters most when novelty appears, when problems fall outside common templates, when the training data thins. In these cases, humans rely more heavily on principle, on rules that generalize beyond examples. AI relies on similarity, on what looks close enough. Close enough is not enough for logic. Attempts to solve this by scaling run into diminishing returns. More data increases coverage. It does not install constraint. The system becomes harder to trick, not impossible. The remaining failures migrate to places where detection is hardest. Long arguments, subtle dependencies, implicit assumptions. This is why AI can outperform humans on benchmarks, yet still fail in real reasoning tasks. Logic cares about derivation. External tools can help. Formal solvers, verification layers, but these operate beside the model, not within it. The AI hands off responsibility. It does not internalize it. When the handoff fails, the model continues as if nothing happened. There is no internal alarm. Humans have alarms. They feel stuck. They feel contradiction. AI feels continuation. This is not a moral failing. It is a design outcome. Understanding this reframes how AI should be used, not as a reasoner, but as a generator that sometimes reasons correctly. Trust must be conditional. Logic must be checked. The danger is not that AI is illogical, it is that it is almost logical, close enough to trust, far enough to fail. As AI systems become more fluent, this difference will fade from intuition. People will stop checking. The errors will not announce themselves. They will sit quietly inside clean prose. Logic does not defend itself. It must be enforced. AI does not enforce it, and nothing inside the system knows when enforcement was required.